Good evening, Peter.
Good morning, Ron. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Yes, absolutely. It's been an interesting weekend. Spent some time with my wife and daughter by the beach, and it's always nice to get away, especially when you're not living close to the beach. Like I'm probably
Right,
a couple
you're
of hundred
inland.
miles away. Yeah, a couple of hundred miles away, up in the mountains, really, or at the at least at the feet of the Australian Alps, so fairly high up for Australia. And just wonderful to be by the beach and just to reconnect with nature again, and to be out in the sun too. It's a little bit warmer there because we're higher up, so the weather's a lot colder. So it's actually nice just to be able to walk around in shorts and a t-shirt and just lie there and take it all in, take in the ocean. I always love that feeling of that openness that comes with being in or near the ocean, that vastness, that those moments that make you forget all about yourself, and that's where you get that. And I suppose that's why they call it the oceanic feeling. You know.
Well, I live fairly close. I mean, I'm, 5 minutes from the ocean? Maybe a little bit more depending on the traffic lights, but I hardly ever actually go over to the ocean, even though I'm this close. When I first moved here 30 years ago, it was a novelty being that close, and I was there every day.
Yeah.
Literally every day. But that wore off. Just like when the shuttles used to go up, I used to go out and watch the shuttles go up. Now, in the last decade, it's been no big deal. Actually, probably more than a decade.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you move away from the ocean, you want to go back to the ocean, vice versa. But, we have beautiful mountains here and forests and beautiful rivers and streams and some small waterfalls, and there's always somewhere nice to go in nature. And I was thinking a lot about a friend of mine, Facebook friend of mine, Kaimpa Young, who came on the radio show last Friday, and he's opened a new type of bank, which is the IOPEN system, which stands for, I'm going to have a shot at it, International One People's Eternal Essence Network. And cute name. And it says exactly what it is. And they're using an open source banking software to set up a value exchange. And when you join up, you get 100 ions. Their unit of exchange is an ion, and they'll exchange any currency for an ion. So it's a one-to-one system. And you get 100 per day for being points, and that I find really, really interesting concept because much in contrast to that, I was reading an article in one of the Australian newspapers about an Australian political party think tank. I believe it's called the Menzies Institute or the Menzies Society. Menzies being a prime minister in Australia a long, long time ago.
Oh, I thought you were referring to the Society of Geniuses.
No, not
Totally
Mensa.
Mensa,
Not
right.
Mensa. Menzies Society, and it's
Yeah, I jumped to the wrong conclusion.
yeah, quite the opposite, because I really don't think these guys are altogether well upstairs. And so this genius, political advisor of our new prime minister, so-called prime minister for the so-called government. Anyway, this guy worked out this wonderful things whereby he said that if we could just kill all the people in our society who took more out than they put in, then that would cure all our economic woes in one fell swoop. And this is coming from a senior political advisor who's high up in a think tank that advises a political party. And you've got to ask yourself the question, what the hell is going on in your head, buddy? Because, if we just grabbed the top 2% of Richie Riches and eliminated them, I think we'd solve a lot more economic woes than the bottom percentage. And what a stark contrast to the iOpen network, where you get value points for being every day, where let's say an African can join up and have 100 value points, 100 units of exchange, one to one, $100 US, $100 Australian, or 100 French francs, or, well, I suppose they have euros now. But, where you get something for being, and that to me is the reality of life, is that we are all very, very useful in our own right, and that we are spiritually unique people, and that our uniqueness serves this planet in some way, shape or form. And even just by thinking, by using your mind, by your heart beating, you're emitting electromagnetic waves, you're emitting emotions, you're emitting thoughts, you're transmitting thoughts, because once again, I don't believe that there is any such thing as my mind. People see mind and they think that it's some sort of a container that you put stuff into. And for me, I find that's absolutely not right. That's the old mechanical view of the universe, where your mind is equated to your physical brain. And I find that all physical brain and your DNA are as antennae for transmitting and receiving. And sure enough, you think in terms of my thoughts because you are receiving something in a localized way. You localize it, you personalize it. But thought is universal to all human beings, and all thoughts are shared, and all thoughts come in thought waves, come in emotion waves, and you transmit and receive that. So we are all adding to the thoughtosphere, to the feelosphere of this earth. And therefore those 100 basic points in the IOPIN network make absolute sense to me, because if I'm transmitting love, then I should get $100 a day for that. That allows me to survive or buy essentials, food, water, basics, whatever. I should have something in return for in exchange for my energy, for my heart beating, for the thoughts I put in the world. And the better they are, the more I should get in return, I suppose. But we're always misguided in the way that we've been taught to look at value. I mean, if you ask the Michael Tellinger's Ubuntu party people, they say, well, you shouldn't put any value on anything. You should just exchange, freely. You want that? Here, sure, I've got to. You have it. I want that. Sure, thank you. Why do we need to attach any kind of value to anything? And I can see where the reasoning from that comes, because if you had some people with lemons and you had one guy with lots of apples, and he could somehow persuade them that a lemon is very common and an apple isn't, and so an apple is worth 4 lemons, then he could start cornering the lemons eventually. That's the whole concept of value, leads to that openness to corruption. But since we're still all dealing with that in some way, shape or form, it's worth having a look at where our concepts of value actually come from. I mean, for instance, right in this moment, if I could put an image on your screen of, let's say, 4 gallons of water and 20 ounces of gold, and I could get you to click on one and it would appear before you, which one would you pick?
The water actually is more necessary than the gold. I drink a lot of water every day, so that's much more valuable. I almost never touch any gold.
Well, most people would say, well, I'm sitting in my house, I've got a well, I've got a tap on the wall, so I can drink water. I'll take the gold. That's what most people would say. Of course, you're an exception. You're ruining my example.
I don't think in terms of the eugenicist mindset that everything is based on lack and we've got a limit. I don't think that way. We've got to unlimit.
Yep. But let's say most people sitting in their comfortable home, having access to tap water and refrigerated water and filtered water, as most of us in a well-to-do society have access to, would say, well, I'll grab the 20 ounces of gold. That's what you probably agree that the majority would say, well, 4 gallons of water or 20 ounces of gold, I'll grab the 20 ounces of gold, right?
Well, that's a monetary-based society.
Yeah, because I can sell that gold, I can renovate my house, I can buy a new car, But you would ask that same person when they're standing in the middle of the desert and nobody's going to rescue them out of the desert and they got to walk for 5 days, and you ask them that same question. Here you go. You can have 20 ounces of gold. You can have 4 gallons of water. What are you going to choose now? And all of a sudden, that same person that jumped on the gold would just say, well, I'm going to pick the water. Because
different
if I have
perception of value.
Yeah, yeah. So, and here's where the crux lies. We've been sold one thing for another. We've been told that it's about value when really it's about function. It's all about function. It's, when I'm sitting at home and I've got my comfortable water and everything like that, and I've got cracks in the wall and I've got, a door that's rotting and I've got to get a carpenter out there, then I'll say I'll grab the gold, because that gold I can exchange for money, I can get my house fixed, I can buy my new car, whatever it is. It fulfills that function. But when I'm in the desert and I have to walk by myself for 5 days to get out, that water is going to fulfill the function that's required. And so this is where the crux lies. And it goes through our economics system, it goes through our religious system, and it goes through our education system. Because, in our economic system, it's, $1 against €2 or whatever the heck it is, probably more the other way around, actually. Or in our education system, it's you being compared, your value being compared against the curriculum of how much money you can potentially make for the thieves, basically, for the cabal and for the great big corporations.
Are you aware that the system here might be collapsing? In the U.S.,
yeah,
the government might be shutting down. I don't know if you get that kind of news over there. I imagine you do.
Yeah, well, I try to keep abreast of the news from various sources, but it is interesting. It's very interesting. And then, of course, the religious value, I'll just finish up on the third bit. The religious value of, course, you are a sinner. You need an external savior to save you, to give you value. And that's value versus function is a really, really interesting thing to think about. And I'll come back to your government in a moment. I'll just finish this train of thought. And so value versus function is an important concept to be aware of, because we've been sold one thing for another. We've been told that it's about value. The king is more important than you. He's more valuable than you. The president's more important than you. He's more valuable than you. Instead of saying the president is equal to you, but he fulfills a different function. If you're having open heart surgery, then the surgeon is the most valuable person in the world, because he's fulfilling a very important function for you that very few others can do. But yet he's still equal to the garbage man, to the guy who works at the sewerage plant, to the guy who, generates your electricity. Without all of that stuff, that surgeon, who's got so much value in our society and so highly paid, without these lowly paid workers behind him, he can't really do anything. So it's about function. It's about function rather than about value. And we've all been told that it's about value. And it's a total lie, and it's a total detrimental bit of conditioning that our society is built up on. It's all about the money. It's all about who's got the most. It's all about who's got the most value to get the most money. Whereas you look back at the eye-open system, and everybody is getting a basic value, and everybody has the opportunity to exchange one-on-one value in currency, or change one-on-one value in ions, which is their particular brand of currency. And I'm not saying this is a great working model of a new way of banking or anything like that, but it certainly is a very, very interesting educational tool that has us rethink value versus function. And it's a very, very important thing. And of course, it's the way that we measure, the comparatively measuring, back to the apples and the lemons. It's that comparative measurement, which is the left brain's forte. The left brain likes to measure everything out, and it very much excludes the inclusivity of the heart, which says, well, all hearts are beating, all hearts are equal, love is equal, everybody is love, everything is equal, fulfills different functions. A surgeon or a ruler or a president is a different form a function. That's all there is to it. And he's not more important than anybody else. Nobody's more important than anybody else. And these games that they're playing now with your Congress where, they're going to cut off the money supply and they're not going to underwrite the bill to make more debt and all that sort of stuff and all this grandstanding and well, you have a majority to put your law through, but we have the capability to turn off your money supply and what's going to happen when the government shuts down? Who's going to suffer the hardest when the government shuts down? Okay, people on food stamps, when they can't get food stamps for the day, or I don't know quite how that system works really, because we do tend to have a little bit better social security in this country than you have in the States.
Well, it was interesting. I had to interact with a government agent yesterday on an issue, family issue, not me personally, but a family member, and he made I mentioned to him the potential of the government shutting down, and he says, "I hope it does." And this is a guy that works for the government. We didn't get into a prolonged discussion about it, but I thought his reaction to the idea was interesting. I didn't expect that.
I'm wondering whether they're going to use this as a pretext to do what they did in Cyprus, saying, well, there's so much foreign debt and we can't incur more debt, so we're going to start garnishing your X percentage of your bank accounts and stuff like that. I'm wondering if that's going to be a bit of a pretext for that, but it's sure going to be interesting to see what happens. But generally, the ones that suffer the most when government services shut down are the most underprivileged, and it's probably not going to be a good day for them. But hopefully something constructive will come out of it. I think there's going to be, of course, market panic. Your stock markets are going to drop, and they use everything as an excuse to rob you blind if you've got a cent in the bank.
Stock market's part of the game anyway. I mean, most of the stocks are actually not traded by private individuals. They're government agencies and other corporations, big corporations. That's where all the trade comes in. So they can play with that up and down however they want. It has nothing to do with reality. For the average person.
It doesn't have anything to do. The only reality it has anything to do with is if you've got a investment in a pension fund that's invested in the market, that they're going to take that money from you as well. That's basically, here in Australia we have mandatory pension funds. We have to pay in so much if we're working earning above a certain amount. We have to pay in a certain amount into superannuation funds. Otherwise, we get penalised tax-wise. We have to pay it in tax. So,
what's going on?
The choice is you put it in fund and you put it in tax. It's
You're actually starting to break up a little bit. Are you noticing it breaking up?
Yeah, it's telling me that.
Right, now it's recording again, but there for a second it was we had a little bit of a glitch, it seemed like.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue to go. I'm sorry.
I forgot where I was actually. Superannuation. So what happened here in the so-called big crash of 2008? And I remember one fund that was rolling around. I had something like $36,000 in. I ended up with about 6 or 8, and they wrote me a letter of congratulations saying we lost so much less than all the other funds. Wow. And I think I recently looked at a statement from that same fund, and it's still nowhere near the 36,000 it was. So here the government actually makes you stick it into a fund that invests in the market, so that when they play their pretend crashes, they can harvest, they can harvest your superannuation as well. So that's what the name of the game is. They're harvesting. And on Friday's radio show, I was talking to a lovely fella called Vic, who's an economic philosopher, He's a philosopher and a self-pronounced economist, and he's got this lovely idea of, we could set up a gold-backed currency and we could put it through an exchange where we are actually exchanging other values as well. So for people who would be comfortable with a gold-backed currency, they could use currency to trade. For people who would be comfortable with minutes, you could actually deposit minutes in value. You could deposit goods, which could be warehoused, and you could deposit just energy, basically, which is measurable. You can measure biometric energy output, and you can actually use it. So he's got this view of this system where there's many different angles where if you're comfortable putting your minutes of times, units of minutes in and exchanging those with others, and that's where we come back again to the equality principle, where that minute of a surgeon is just as important as that minute of the garbage man, and we can exchange minutes for goods or services, and in that case you always get to keep 100% of what you generate, because 100% of the minutes you put into the system is what you barter or trade with other people, and they get to keep 100% of their value as well. And compare that to the current system we got, where my best guess was about 90% of what we generate gets stolen from us, and some rich criminal goes and builds a skyscraper and gets himself a Learjet and all that sort of stuff. And that's all because of the value versus function again. And if you get to, and Vic says it's 95%. We only actually really get to keep 5% of what we actually generate. And he likens the feeling of constantly getting 100% of what you generate to that windfall you get when you get a lucky lottery ticket, and that's the way we should look at it. We should get out of this system where there's this centralized money, which is run by criminals anyway, who tell us that we have no value. Again, they hold value.
Enterprise.
And the lie that perpetuated. Again, it comes down to our concepts of value. And people ask me all the time, but really, do you think that people can understand how to live in a world without money? And honestly, if I could have this meme of the equality of value, of the equality of function. If I could have this meme and put it into every movie, every novel, every reality TV show for the next 3 months, then everybody would have it. Everybody would get it. And this is the beautiful thing about the new system that Vic is proposing, because it leads you into, you can do what you know, you can do what you trust, you can actually exchange a gold-backed currency with another person, or you can say, well, I'll exchange so much currency for minutes, or I'll exchange it for a product, and you can make this sort of an eBay thing. And the iOpen is going to do that too. They're going to have a marketplace and a forum and a marketplace attached to it as well. And if you look at eBay, you're still trading with money on eBay, but when I used to buy stuff on eBay, I used to go and look at the guy's rating, because if he had 100 transactions and he had 100% good rating, which means that all his customers received their goods, were happy with the transaction, I'd often buy on rating, and there'd be a guy who had it for $5 or $10 less, and his rating would be 80%, and it means that 20% of his customers are very unhappy because item didn't arrive, it was poorly packaged or whatever. I would pay the few dollars more to get it off the guy who had 100% rating. So you can have this marketplace that operates on trust, and where this exchange really becomes this means of exchange, be it an ion or a min or whatever it is, becomes a secondary thing to the actual trust. And that's a situation that I'd like people to contemplate, is that we can do this even without any set unit of exchange, based on our goodwill and based on our understanding of the equality and the difference only being a difference of function.
Yeah, I just had to respond.
Well, you got to do that sometimes.
Yeah, so I got a little bit of a message over here on the other computer. So
Hey, you're a
anyway.
busy man. Welcome to the digital age. We're so
Oh my
connected, it's
God.
not funny. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. The thing that gets me, Peter, is there's so much creativity being unleashed right now. And so many people are coming up with new ideas, new approaches, new ways to do things that we've pretty much been stuck in a single way of doing things. And with all the creativity bursting forth right now, we're going to have so much more choice in how we want to conduct our lives and handle our affairs. It's just, it's breathtaking to me when I think of what lies in front of us, that we are literally creating a whole new world for ourselves. And, it's amazing. It's wonderful. It's scary a little bit, but I'm really
Well,
not
that's the
scared.
thing.
But
That's
a
the
lot
thing
of
we
people
got
are,
to go
because
on.
it's unfamiliar territory.
Yeah, well, that's the thing we've got to let go of. We've got to let go of that fear. And we've got to get through that fear. We just got to allow it to be, allow it to give us that word of caution, and then just step into the moment and step into the passion and proceed, because it's about having fun. Okay, having 100% of what you generate means that you can have fun. Okay, you can work for what? If you're working 40 hours a week and 90% of it's being stolen, that's 36 hours a week. Working 4 hours a week and having full access to what you generate, and having the total capacity for the lifestyle you're working 50 hours for now, that's fun. Okay, that's fun, because that's where that hobby that you've got, or that crazy invention that you've got in your head, or that kid you would dearly love to be a good father to, or, that old car that you always wanted to restore, that going fishing, you name it, because everybody knows what they want deep down inside. We're even so afraid and locked into the system that we quite often tend to repress it and forget about it and only dream about it, really. And that's the sort of world we can have when we relinquish this fear and we just start to play with the eye-open network. It's not the be-all and end-all, but it's a different way of interacting. Okay, how many old bits and pieces of stuff haven't you got sitting in the garage that one day you're going to sell? Well, put it up on
Have you
there.
been speaking?
I know these things, Ron. I know. It wasn't my thought. I picked up on the waves, But it's true. Just go and, stick some of the superfluous stuff on iOpen or whatever, and go and play with different means of exchanges. Go and play with people who are trying to develop that meme and trying to get that meme out there. Become involved with, and this is again, we've done all the pointing. We know about the bad guys. Become involved in something that could potentially lead to a solution. Become solution-oriented. Stand in your own power. Become solution-oriented. And this is the thing. This is the thing about spirituality too. You don't need a redeemer. You're not worthless, because in your own uniqueness, in the way your heart beats and the way your soul works, lies your connection to the absolute and the eternal essence. And, don't let anybody tell you, because again, it's function versus value. They've hoodwinked you there. They've told you that you need an intermediary who's quite often paid, be it a guru or a priest or whatever, to intercede with the deity for you. Whereas you are the deity embodied. So know that in your own uniqueness, that your connection is there, and that's your very own unique connection, and that's your very own unique passion and joy and creativity. And that's what we need to live from. We need to live from this passion, joy, and creativity. And we need to have a ton of fun. And we need to all do that so that we can restore again the confidence in each other that we have lost because we've had to play the game of comparative value. And we've lost the sense of our equality. And therefore we've had to try and put other people down or pull ourselves up on other people or other frameworks or philosophies or whatever. And we've got to realize, and if we don't, it'll be to our detriment and doom. We've got to realize that we are indeed the value.
Yeah, indeed. And I think that's what we're going to, I don't know, I've been trying to think as you're talking, what am I going to call this conversation? Because I always try to come up with a title. Do you have an appropriate title that you can think of right now?
You are the value. That's what
You
it's
are
all
the
about
value?
for me. That's what it's all
Yeah,
about for me at the moment, is just working out this value and the truth
yeah,
of this value on every front, be it religious, be it social, be it financial, and even, in terms of your sovereignty and safety. Yeah, you are the value. And there is no bigger truth, I think, because it's one of those core truths that resonates throughout any endeavor and anything a human being can do and be, from their spirituality through to their finances, through to how they behave in their relationships with others. If you know that you are the value, you don't have to hurt or take anything away from anybody else, because you know that you're the value. And if that person next to you knows too, you'll be sharing stuff. You won't be fighting over it. You won't be competing over it. You won't be trying to enclose things in borders and have think tanks, think up ways of exterminating 25% of the population and all that sort of stuff. And these are the choices that we make, love and fear.
yeah.
But yeah, realize what your function is and realize that you are the value.
Well, I'm glad you had an opportunity to go to the beach and take a little bit of time off. I know you deserve it. You work hard, and you've shared a lot of ideas here today that people will realize that there's a whole lot of creativity going on, and there's alternative ways of looking at things, and that's what we're into now. And the more people that get on board with this alternative thinking, instead of the old mindset of we have to think a certain way, and we're told what something wisdom, conventional wisdom. There is no such thing. The conventional wisdom now is be yourself, explore. You have a whole big world before you. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah, I just had a thought. Let them shut down your economy. Start your own.
Yeah, yeah. We're in an exciting time, and I thank you for our conversation. I'm sure we've given people something to think about today, as we always do, and look forward to our next conversation. So, you have a
Same
beautiful
here,
day.
Ron.
You have a beautiful day, Peter.
You too, Ron.
Okay,
Namaste.
namaste.